So as a lot of you know, I've been reading through this list that Easton Press put together, and they call it the Masterpieces of Science Fiction, and it's 140 books. And I've been working on this list for a year and a half. I've read plenty of other books in between, but I finally got to the midway point. And when I started this kind of reading challenge, in a way, if you want to call it that, it did seem very daunting to me. And as time goes on and you keep reading and check these books off the list, eventually here we are halfway through the list. And it's been a blast. There's been a bunch of great new authors I've kind of been turned on to, some interesting books. I've kind of been trying to read what I would think of as maybe not the best books in this first half. I have read some classics and some rereads and great books, but I've kind of been saving some of the more important books in the genre for the second half. Now, I did an announcement video where I talk about why I'm even doing this. I'll post a link to that. I also will put a playlist of all of these books. I've reviewed every single one of these books that I'm going to show you. And I've combined some of them. Some of the videos have more than one book in there. But this is a list. This is in order. This is the first 35 books I read as I was starting this journey. And the first book I read was Childhood's End. That was a reread and it was a classic. And there was just a bunch of great books along the way. I really wanted to read Blood Music by Greg Bear. And so that was like my third book on the list. And I was reading a bunch of interesting books. And then I really didn't know much about John Wyndham and The Day of the Triffids at the time. And this was a surprise hit for me. I really enjoyed that one. Come to find out, he's a very popular author. I just never really heard of him. But I really can't wait to read some more of his in the future. And then we get to one of my first big disappointments on the list. And that was Samuel R. Delany's The Einstein Intersection. This one I just really didn't like. And I know there's people that like it. I probably missed a bunch of stuff in that one, but I'm really excited to read more from Delany. And as you'll see in the second half of this list, there's another one that's by Delany on the list, and then more that I'd really like to read in the future. But you can see there's more books as we go down through here, some great ones. And No Enemy But Time by Michael Bishop was a surprise hit. I had never heard of Michael Bishop. I'd never heard of this book. I kind of just picked it up off the shelf just randomly, thinking I'd kind of put a dud out of the way. And I absolutely love this. I've since collected almost everything he's written. I've read some more of his works. I'd eventually like to read, I think, everything that Michael Bishop has written. And then if you keep going down the list here, one that I was really excited for was This Is the Way the World Ends by James Morrow. And he's compared to Vonnegut, who I really love his writing, his satire, his absurdity. And this one just was a little bit too much for me. I do want to try some more of his work in the future, but that one was just a little over the top, so I was a little disappointed in that one. And then keep going down the list and we get to Earth Abides by George R. Stewart. And this was my book of the year for 2023. I really love this book, and some viewers had turned me on to this one because I had mentioned I really like post-apocalyptic fiction. And I saw it was on the list. I kind of moved it up on the list. I read it and I loved it. And then one more last surprise hit in this first half, these first 35, was Campus by James Gunn. And if you just look at the cover and the title, it does not do this book justice of what it is about. It was one of those ones I picked off thinking, I picked it up off the shelf thinking I was just going to get it out of the way, and it was fantastic. So now if you look, this is the next 35 books that I've read. And one that I was hoping I would like Zelazny. This was the first book I had read from Zelazny, This Immortal. And I absolutely love this. It has a lot of mythology, but I don't think you really have to know a lot about mythology to enjoy that book. Just the setting, the characters, the plot of it, it was just really captivating, and it was a really short, quick read. I loved it. And you keep going down the list here, and another surprise hit for me was The Paradox Men by Charles L. Harness. And this had a lot of Bester vibes. Alfred Bester is one of my favorite science fiction writers, but he wrote this before Bester was writing his stuff. But it has that same fast pace, full of ideas. It has likable characters, though, and it was just fantastic. I really enjoyed that book. And then there was more classics, I read Neuromancer, there was The Shrinking Man, and then I got to this book. I decided to pick this up, On Wings of Song by Thomas M. Disch. And I really did enjoy this, but I feel like I read this out of order. It felt so personal. There was a bunch of real interesting themes going on in it. And it was my first book I'd read from Thomas Disch. And I feel like I need to go back, read his kind of small science fiction catalog, and then come back and reread this. I really did enjoy it. I gave it a 4, but I think I will. This could almost be a 5-star book in the right context, I think. And then I read Gateway a little ways down on the list by Frederik Pohl, and this is a contender for Book of the Year for this year. I loved it a lot. I have read now the entire first 4 books of the Heechee saga. I'm going to do a video here soon talking about those books. It'll be spoiler free, so just wait for that one. And you can see the other books that I finished. And the 70th book I picked was Stephen King's The Dead Zone, because if you watch my announcement video, that was kind of the book that I found this whole list from, and I kind of give him a little credit for that, and it was a great book to read as my 70th. So now this is 35 books here that are coming up. This is just alphabetized by author's last name. I'm not going to read them in this order, but there's a lot of great ones on here. There's a lot of the uber classics in science fiction that I've kind of just been holding off to read in this second half. And you can see we got Asimov, we've got Bradbury coming up, 3 from Arthur C. Clarke, we got Babel 17 by Delaney, 2 from Dick, we got Heinlein and Haldeman, we got Ursula K. Le Guin. It's going to be pretty chock full in the second half. And then if you look, this is the final 35 books. Like I said, not in the order that I'm going to read them. But we got Solaris by Lem, we got Dragonflight and by Anne McCaffrey. That's going to be the next book. I probably will read that starting next month. I didn't want to get into a series until I'd finished the Heechee saga. And so I'm going to at least read Dragonflight. I hope I like it enough to read the first 3 books in the trilogy, but I've heard mixed things. I'll just have to see. But I don't like to have like too many series going on at once. And you just keep going down the list. We got Silverberg, Simic. A lot of these are going to be rereads for me because I have read way more in this second half. A lot of these classics I have already read. And Dan Simmons' Hyperion, I've only read the first book. I plan on reading all 4 books when I get to that one, so that'll be when I have time to get into another series at that point. A.E. Van Vogt, and then Gene Wolfe, I'm going to be revisiting all of the Book of New Sun when I get to those. So it's going to be exciting, and I'm really excited for the second half of this. If you notice recently, I've had some guest people on, some other booktubers out there, and it's been great. I read Gateway with Joseph from Joseph Reads Books. I read Lord of Light with Chris from Liminal Spaces. And I'm really up to read some more of these books with others. I do have some of the books that are on this second half of the list kind of saved for the final 10 that I'm going to read. But, hit me up, send me an email if you want to buddy read one of these, and I can have you on the channel and we can discuss them. It's been a lot of fun. It's kind of mixed it up for me instead of just me sitting here talking about the books. So I'm really excited for the second half of this list. Thank everybody for watching, for commenting. It's been a blast. I've made what I think are real true friends so far since starting this channel. and it's just been a blast. So looking forward to the future of the channel, and I hope you are too. So that's going to be it for this video. We'll see you in the next video, and thanks for watching.